Today we're going to talk about some inside tech specs on the new 2024 Harley Davidson Street Glide and Road Glide. What's up, Riding Free Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about some inside tech specs on the 2023-2024 Road Glide and Street Glide. Now, everybody knows there's been some cosmetic changes in the infotainment changes with the Skyline OS, and we can see all of those visibly, but today we're going to talk about some not so visible behind the scenes tech spec information on the new models that make them improved over the predecessor models. Okay, so we know that Harley Davidson has simplified the market this year by strictly only making one Street Glide and one Road Glide model. Now, some people are super happy with that. They think it's an awesome thing. Other people are distraught because there's no standard special ST model like there was in 2023. However, from a marketing standpoint, what Harley Davidson is doing is simplifying the market is a genius idea simply because there's not multiple models to choose from. Now, one of the big things is that they have offered is accessory packages for you to customize the motorcycle, make it a little bit different when you purchase it. There's the day tripper, the long tripper, the special package, and the ST package where you can purchase accessories and kind of like a pre-bundled deal to put on the motorcycle to make it a little bit different, which is kind of a cool idea. However, with some of those things, it takes away from, individualization and customization of doing that, and some people have already started to complain that they don't want everything that is simply in that package. However, like I said, genius idea on the motor company's behalf by just simplifying the market, making two models, and the price point is just phenomenal. Now, one of the big things that I have heard as a gripe from a lot of people is that the inner fairing of the motorcycle is simply not painted. Now, one of the things that you got to keep in mind with that not being painted is really you can't have everything built into a motorcycle and at a very good price point. It just doesn't work that way. So one of the things that they didn't do was paint that inner fairing, and it allows people to be able to customize that after the fact by painting it. You can paint it different colors, gloss black, whatever works for you, but that is one of the things that people have, had some significant complaints about is the inner fairing. And like I point out to people all the time, the cost is just going to increase when you add everything into the motorcycle. One of the big things that attracts people to the 2024s on top of all the significant changes, but is the price point. So when you look at that price point, if you continue to add stuff in there, you're going to jack that price point up, and it's going to be counterproductive in what the motor company is trying to do to regain control of the touring market. So in looking at some behind the scenes things that people don't talk much about with the new changes in the 24s, we're going to talk a lot about the improvements. And the first one is the suspension. There's a 50% more travel on the rear suspension than the predecessor models. So it is an inch, but it is 50% when you think about it in relation to the previous travel. And the front suspension has been completely redesigned and tuned to match the rear suspension. And the new models are the only motorcycle currently on the market made by any manufacturer that have a tuned front and rear suspension that work in sync with one another. With the suspension changes comes better handling of the motorcycle. If you haven't seen the head-to-head 2023 Street Glide and Road Glide videos, I'll post a link right here for you. But in riding those models in the 23 and the 24 back-to-back series, you can definitely feel the suspension change and the upgrade and the improved ride quality and handling that suspension offers. Now, one of the nice things about the 2024 117 models is that they are liquid-cooled heads. Harley Davidson has completely redesigned the flow pattern compared to previous models in the limiteds, which were the only liquid-cooled models. And the new liquid-cooled heads keep the motorcycle running cooler. According to Harley Davidson's spec information, in doing some testing, and it's a very difficult pattern to test in relative heat, temperature, environment, etc., they were able to test the temperature of the spark plug on the rear cylinder. Now, specifically the rear cylinder, because it is closer and allows less air to get out and typically holds more heat. And most importantly for us, sitting on top of the hot motor, it is closest to us. So when the motor company did their temperature testing, they were able to test the metal temperature on the spark plug at the rear cylinder and found with their liquid cooled system, it runs about 40 degrees cooler than an air-cooled motor. Now, what does that relatively mean to us sitting on top of the motor? I kind of use the 50% rule in relative information to environment, etc. So you figure realistically for us, I would assume that it's about 20 degrees cooler, which 20 degrees is a pretty significant temperature difference when you're sitting on top of a hot motor. I know down here in the south, especially in the hot Atlanta area, when it is summertime, it is super, super hot and sticky and moist. Any reduction in engine temperature to me is a significant improvement. Now, one of the big things that I think is a significant jump is the weight reduction in the 24 models over the 23 models. The Street Glide has lost 18 pounds and the Road Glide has lost 16 pounds. May not seem like a lot when you're sitting on a 900-pound motorcycle, but I will tell you firsthand, personal experience, that the weight reduction is a significant difference in the handling and how nimble that motorcycle feels. So when you look at the Street Glide specifically, 9 pounds of that was lost off the front end. So in the Street Glide and the Road Glide, they've redesigned the triple tree and lost about 7 pounds of weight, going to an aluminum composite triple tree that's up front. So that is a pretty significant weight reduction by itself. Now, when you think of the infotainment system and no traditional gauges and wiring up front, they've lost an additional 2 pounds there. And then the fender on the front is smaller, so you have a negligible weight loss there as well. So when you think about how significant that much weight is off the Street Glide, and you know, a lot of people always talk about the weight difference in a Street Glide and Road Glide to begin with, and the weight on that Street Glide is all on the handlebars, so it's more directly felt in your hands. With that significant weight reduction of at least 9 pounds on the front end of the motorcycle, definitely changes the way that the motorcycle feels, and certainly doesn't feel as heavy as predecessor models do on the front end. Now, one of the other areas that Harley is boasting, its weight reduction is the wire harness. Now, most people probably wouldn't think about wiring in the motorcycle adding a significant amount of weight. However, Harley Davidson has reduced weight in the wire harness itself by 2 pounds. They've changed the wire routing, they changed the splice points, and reduced the amount of wiring needed to run the motorcycle. So that is an added weight loss component. Now, a lot of other areas, obviously they've changed some things up in the motor, used different materials. The gas tank specifically is a lighter gauge material in forming that gas tank. The composites to the plastics in the saddlebags and the side covers and the fairings all have different materials in them, so that leads to the rest of the weight loss in the motorcycle. Now, with that, a couple things are very important. The plastics have a super strong resiliency. You can flex the side of the saddlebag with the saddlebag lid open and not worry about fracturing the saddlebag. Obviously, you can't stand on it, you can't sit on it. However, just the simple opening and closing of it, or being able to put your hand on it, or think about how many people put a speaker in the saddlebag lid and that extra weight is hanging on that saddlebag. Harley Davidson has fixed that by using different materials specifically in the saddlebags, making them lighter and stronger at the same time. With the gas tank redesign, everybody has been commenting on how it looks different. Not only is it cosmetically different, but by going to different materials that are lighter, the design of the tank provides tensile strength in the side of the tank, and that's part of what the design is allowing us to use lighter materials yet carry the same gallon capacity and fuel on the gas tank, which makes that important to touring riders. Now, obviously ride modes are a huge improvement over previous models that don't have ride modes, and I absolutely had a blast riding the motorcycle in sport mode. It was a lot of fun. So if you look at the ride modes, you have the ability to customize ride modes and kind of make your own and play with it a little bit. As sport mode sits currently, it's only running about 80% of the maximum capacity of throttle response. So if you look at the ride modes, you can change that and you can up that all the way to 100% and have even more fun when you're riding. Talked earlier about customizing and accessorizing with Harley Davidson accessories. One of those accessories is the new Screaming Eagle Bluetooth tuner. Currently, with the way that Harley Davidson has the 117 motor set up, you can currently upgrade to a stage 2 system, and that is all they have at this point for you to be able to natively upgrade without doing some significant impact changes on the motor. So those things will be coming down. But that Screaming Eagle tuner by itself, with the way that the mapping system is set up with the airflow and no exhaust change whatsoever, but just using the Screaming Eagle tuner, Harley Davidson is boasting that you gain 13 horsepower and 7 foot-pounds of torque just by using the tuner itself with the stock parts on the motorcycle. That's pretty impressive just for a tuner out of the box, just plugging it in and running it. Pretty good. So let's talk about Apple CarPlay. Everybody's been buzzing about this and Android Auto. Like I said before in a previous video, Android Auto has completely withdrawn their support for any two-wheel vehicle platform whatsoever. That is not a motor company issue. That is an Android Auto issue or Google issue. And Microsoft has purchased Google, and they've completely pulled themselves back when it comes to two-wheel vehicles. Now, with that, Apple CarPlay, everybody's talking about how nice it is to have it in there, but there are also some concerns. One of those things is that you need to use a Bluetooth headset system with a microphone. That is a key component to it, is that you have to have microphone ability when you activate Apple CarPlay. And when you get on the motorcycle and use Apple CarPlay, you have to have that Bluetooth system with the microphone running to make that system work. Now, you don't have to go out and purchase a headset. You don't specifically have to use something like a Cardo, which I'm a big fan of. You can use something like an AirPod. You can use your AirPods, put them in a saddlebag or your glove box, and you can run it that way. But you do have to use the headset with the microphone to engage Apple CarPlay while you're using the motorcycle. These motorcycles have only been out a short period of time. However, people have been doing their research and playing with them. And one of the complaints with Apple CarPlay is you have this 12.3-inch TFT screen. Why don't you allow Apple CarPlay to use more of the screen? And there's a response for that. When you think about Apple CarPlay in your vehicle, there are issues with the side screen and what Apple regulates to be an allowable viewable area with the Apple CarPlay system. Now, when you look at your vehicle, in your dash components in front of the steering wheel, you have those telltale lights, your instrumentation for different things and indicators on your dash. When you look at a motorcycle, all of that stuff is combined into that 12.3-inch screen. So for regulatory compliance, you do have to have the ability to have those telltale lights visible, which limits the amount of space that you can have for the Apple CarPlay. So as the current system Skyline OS sits, you are only going to get about 6 inches of screen size with the Apple CarPlay. Now, at some point, will Apple and Harley Davidson make some changes and allow us to have a bigger screen for Apple CarPlay? We don't know. That would be hopeful. However, with the way that the system is engineered currently and the way that Apple's standards are, that is what we get. And just to prove Apple CarPlay rules, a lot of people have asked about why that is and what that is. That is simply an Apple thing, but you can't get Apple CarPlay on a Pan America. Even though you have a decent sized screen, you do not have a regulatory 6 inches to their specifications to allow Apple CarPlay to be visible along with the telltale lights still staying on the dash of the motorcycle. So with the Apple CarPlay, let's talk about one other cool feature of the new models, and that is the embedded navigation. Now, a lot of people have complained that you have to pay for the embedded navigation. However, there is a reason why the motor company went this route. When you look at 90% of touring motorcycle users in the United States, they are all Apple CarPlay users. And a lot of people strictly use Apple CarPlay. So they basically have taken the feature away and added it as a cost factor into it because simply a lot of people don't use it. So why pay for it if you're not going to use it, which I think is smart in relating that to the customer. However, here's the thing with the embedded navigation. Currently, as it sits, as of today, which is the beginning of March, you can only get embedded navigation if you purchase the motorcycle at the dealership and on the day of purchase. Currently, right now, if you were to purchase a motorcycle today, leave tomorrow, decide that you wanted the embedded navigation, you will not be able to natively purchase that on your own at that time. Harley Davidson has strictly made that feature to dealerships only, and that will not be available for after purchase until after April of this year. So get it set up. If you think about it, it's a $350 charge, which yes, $350 is an absolute lot of money, especially some people it could be a pretty significant piece of money. However, when you look at it, when you activate the embedded navigation runs forever, stays with the motorcycle. The 3-year time frame that Harley Davidson has posted is strictly for live map updates over Wi-Fi, traffic overlay, and weather overlay. Those features will only be good for the first 3 years, and that goes from the date of purchase. And when you think about it, 3 years is a long time. What's going to happen after 3 years? Well, motor company really doesn't have an idea yet if they're going to make it a 1 year, 3 year, if they're going to have a lifetime subscription. We're not to that point yet. However, when you think about using the embedded navigation and having it in the motorcycle, you really don't have to worry about Apple CarPlay. For Android Auto users, you don't have to worry about not being able to, have your functions on there, such as your nav or your phone capability, because you do have the ability to use it with the Harley system as it is. But you do have the ability to have those features available to you, and the cost is absolutely minuscule. If you think about the average user holding a motorcycle for 3 to 4 years before they trade it in, you're literally talking a couple of pennies a day to be able to have the embedded navigation active on the motorcycle, and it's a great feature to have. Now, one of the other things that I like to point out to folks is what happens if you're using your phone for your navigation and such, and your phone battery dies, you don't have it plugged in, you have complication issues, you still have navigation and can still find where you're going if you're out traveling. Always a positive thing. The last features I want to talk about is something cool that Harley Davidson did this year with the rider safety system, formerly known as the RDRS, and that is the vehicle hold control system. Currently, when you look at either the RDRS or the rider safety system on the 23 or 24 models, you can only use vehicle hold control when the motorcycle is in first gear. Now, one of the things Harley came out with this year is a vehicle hold control upgrade kit, costs $60 and can be put in the motorcycle, which allows you to use vehicle hold control in neutral, which is a super awesome thing. And for $60, especially being a short guy myself, that upgrade is definitely worth the $60. When you think about the comfort advantage of us being able to sit at a stoplight and not have to worry about rolling back, keeping the motorcycle in neutral, resting your hands, $60 is well worth it. Guys, I appreciate you stopping back by, spending some time here at Riding Free, hanging out with us on the channel. If you like today's content, please hit that like, share, and subscribe buttons and help this channel grow. Your support is always appreciated. Until next time, guys, ride safe, enjoy your life, make the absolute most of what you're doing around out there, and don't forget, we're allowed to be riding free because people sacrifice for us. So give them a handshake, a wave, or thank you when you run into them. Until next time, we'll catch you later.